Thank you for joining us this morning. Hope you have your cup of coffee. I'm Angie Hedgepeth, your Government Affairs Director with Longleaf Pine Realtors. Welcome to the first breakfast with Realtor Champions. Each month, we will feature an elected official or special guest for a 30-minute Q&A to go over some hot topics of the day. During our short time together, we will cover some serious topics, but also find out a few fun facts along the way about our Realtor Champion. We will try to fit in a few questions for our guests toward the end, so please put any questions in the chat. Our first Realtor Champion is City of Fayetteville Mayor Mitch Colvin. The mayor is a native of Fayetteville. He was elected in November 2017 as the city's second African-American mayor and is currently serving in his second term. He attended Fayetteville State University and John Tyler Mortuary College. Mayor Colvin's 2020 priorities include redevelopment and business growth of the Murchison Road corridor, reduce poverty and homelessness in the city, increase supply of affordable and market rate housing, invest in our streets, sidewalks, and stormwater systems, and by far so important, increasing home ownership for city residents. You can see why he is our first Realtor Champion. Our moderator today is Wendy Harris of Team Harris Real Estate, and I'm proud to say our 2021 North Carolina Realtors President-elect. So sit back, grab your coffee, and enjoy. Wendy, take it away.
Good morning. Okay, Mayor Colvin, if you will turn back on your video and of course your microphone. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. It is great to see you.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, for me personally, this is the closest to a in-person appearance you and I have made with each other since probably March 13th.
Been a long time. That's right.
I
hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great. I'm fortunate not to have. I'm fortunate to be inconvenienced by COVID and not experience personal tragedy from it.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's the best way I can phrase it. I count myself as fortunate. Yeah. So, gosh, I mean, what a heck of a third year in office. Did anybody see this coming?
I certainly didn't. You have all these grand plans about what the year holds, and I still think we've been very fortunate, but I don't think anyone on any level of government could have predicted what we're dealing with in 2020.
My goodness. So, I have wood around me, so I'm going to knock on it while I say this. At least so far, we haven't gotten the trifecta, right, of the third huge thing that could have happened to us, and I'll keep knocking that we don't have a late one.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a year full of surprises. I tell a lot of people that we've kind of experienced 3 different significant times in history, all in the span of 8 months. We had the last pandemic was in 1918, Spanish flu. We've had a touch of that with COVID. The Great Depression, so our economic downturn has happened, kind of unprecedented since the Great Depression, and then of course our civil rights and civil unrest has happened since in the 60s, reminiscent of the 60s. So it's been quite a year, but I think we've been very fortunate here in Fayetteville.
We have, and I'm going to ask. We're going to get into a couple of heavier questions here in just a minute. But before we do, what I'd really like to know is something a little bit fun about you. So I've got 2 personal questions for you. The first one, now this is a morning show, so we're going to keep it clean. Let's keep it all very PG-13 here. But if you don't mind sharing with us, what are your guilty pleasures that maybe we don't know too much about you?
Oh, I've got a sweet tooth that kind of just throws all my gym work away. And far too regular, so I like chocolate. So that's kind of a guilty pleasure. Probably, I enjoy cigars on occasion. So I would say those 2 things are probably the worst.
Nice. Well, I can certainly empathize with the sweet tooth part of it. The National Association of Realtors Convention was supposed to start next week in New Orleans, and I would have been eating a beignet with my cup of coffee in the morning. So I'm certainly Missing that sweet treat.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, well, good. So cigars and sweet treats. So if anyone wants to get Mayor Mitch Colvin a birthday or a Christmas present, you know what to what to get him. What will endear him to you.
That's right. That's right.
Good to know. Okay, another little question. So when you truly have downtime, when you know you've got time and you can just spend it with yourself in the city and the things you enjoy, what is something that you enjoy most here in Fayetteville?
I like the golf. I mean, we have some great courses here, Bayonet and Baywood and some others, and so I don't want to start naming names and get in trouble, but we
You'll
have
leave somebody out.
yeah, right. So we have some great places here, and whenever I get a few minutes, I like to do that. Very relaxing.
Okay, golfing, fantastic. Well, that's good. You're in a good spot in the world if you're a golf enthusiast for sure. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So 2020. First, let's talk about something and give a little bit of background to some people. There, of course, is a big concern with the economy shutting down about revenue coming in to the city and what that's going to mean moving forward. So what have we lost as a city when it comes to, revenue? And what expenses do you see? Talk about the expense side of it. Give us a little bit of background to what we're experiencing.
So with COVID-19, there were a lot of unknowns, and so the city had to make quick adjustments. Thankfully we run a good fiscal ship here at the city, and we had our reserves in place. But we had some elevated expenses and transition our workforce to work from home remotely, to responding to some of those just quick response things to help our small businesses. We moved on that pretty quickly. Also to help folks stay in their homes that may have had challenges because of COVID with our rental and payment assistance. And so we jumped in and were able to address some of these one-time expenses because we had reserves. The lagging indicators that we will not know fully what the impacts are will be our sales tax revenue. Usually every year that generates between 30 and 35 million for the city with sales tax transactions. Good thing about it is that even though we had some slowdown in some of the things that we would imagine, some of the regular consumer activities, a lot of that activity went online. There were a lot of spending in home improvement, as you know, being in the realtor, with people wanting to make sure that the space that they had to work and live in was comfortable and was renovated and remodeled. So I think that we will know at the first of the year what the impacts of that was, but we anticipate some change in that revenue.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if alcohol, mulch, plant sales made up for beer, wine, or food, and shopping in retail stores.
Right, and that's a good point, because right now the city doesn't receive any of the alcohol or food or beverage taxes. So that's something we work with our brethren on the county side to change. But that's true.
That's exactly right, because I think there's we're one of the few places in the state where the city doesn't actually partake in any of the food and beverage tax. So that's right. Although that's not a loss to us, right, it's also creates a different dynamic for us as Absolutely. Well. So I don't know that everyone's always cognizant of that being front of mind, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So good. And I think in this situation this year, that special tax situation for us has put an interesting twist on things. Maybe some cities around the state who rely heavily on it had to make a lot more adjustments than maybe we did. So, there's always a plus and a minus to everything, isn't there?
Silver lining to the cloud. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. So I'm never one to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. I think the more we practice them, we're certainly, they become easier and simpler for us. So let's talk a little bit about the racial dynamics in our city. As a Black man, as a leader of the city of Fayetteville, I would love to know your perspective on sort of how is Fayetteville doing? How are we doing? I mean, we know no one's quite where they need to be you know, in the world that we're in, just being able to work together, communicate, look at each other in a very respectful, sort of equal way, not being blind. No one wants anyone to be colorblind. But what's your perspective on how we're doing as a city with all the issues?
Yeah, so I talked to a lot of mayors from a lot of different places who are having a hard time right now. And, you know, I said this in my 2017 re-election speech. I said it in 2019, that our greatest strength in the city of Fayetteville is our diversity, that we are a very diverse community. We have a lot of people from a lot of different places, and we're almost equally balanced with the black-white ratio. And I think that has served us well in light of everything we've gone through as a nation. The George Floyd situation kind of was the culmination of years of frustration and uncomfortable situations that a lot of communities struggle with, and those national issues pushed their way into our community. We had a bad night on May the 30th or 31st, no doubt about that. But I think we recovered very well, very quickly, because we're a diverse community that has diversity in its leadership. As leaders, we had to have tough conversations with African Americans. I did, to say, hey guys, this is not the right way to institute any real meaningful change. We had to also have leadership in the white community that had to step up and say, guys, we have to acknowledge the fact that there are problems that exist and we can no longer look the other way. And so I think because of that, we're in a better place than a lot of communities. I talked to a lot of people who are still struggling with protests on a daily basis, and people camping out in front of their government institutions, and they have these flare-ups of vandalism and violence at the end of a day or a week. And so I think that because we're diverse, that has been our strength, and we've been able to confront our problems head on. Hadn't been perfect, but I think we're in a lot better shape than we would be without it.
Yeah. One of my perspectives, and of course, I wasn't born or raised here, but my family's been here since 1983. So this is what I call Fayetteville home, and I choose to be here every day. And I love this area for many of the reasons that you just said. I was having a conversation with someone the other day who said we agreed that one of the unique things about Fayetteville in our area is I really feel as though, number one, we're a very unpretentious area, which I love. But also there's this sense from the people that we all have the ability to still have an impact and make change when change needs to be made. So it's almost a sense that we don't ever reach this desperate state that this desperate condition that some other places do. It doesn't mean we don't have problems, but it seems like we start having the conversation before issues really get too far a lot of the time.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. And, your premise that you started out with, to say, hey, tough conversations are tough to have, but they're necessary, I think has served us well. And we're trying to do more of that. I think right after the George Floyd, as the nation was grappling with, what changes to make to the systematic issues that may exist, we took a bold step to say that we're going to look within and outside of the city of Fayetteville and its total operations and be completely transparent to see if there are things we can change. And so a lot of communities hide from that fact. But I think the fact that we stepped up and embraced it, that we're looking to point out those areas that we can do better in, says what type of community we have. And I think that is just reflective of how this city and this community is, that we are a very giving, very loving, and very tight-knit community. And even though we disagree, we're able to put it back together pretty quickly.
Yeah. And one of the things I also would just like to bring attention to, because I think it's important as well, is, no government can solve this for this country, right? I mean, no local city, county, state, or national can come in and fix it with policies. But what we can do as individual leaders is set an example for everybody else in the way we talk, the way we solve problems, the way we communicate and address them. And so thank you for being that type of leader for us, that takes that higher road, that pushes the uncomfortable conversation, but does it in a collaborative way. So I just want to say thank you for that. It's, there's never a perfect way to do everything, but not doing anything is certainly not a part of the solution. So thank you. Yeah. All right. So one of the reasons you're our first Realtor champion, I have to check the clock to make sure we're halfway through. I tend to start talking and then it's the next morning, I love a good conversation.
That's right. Me too.
They
say politicians like to talk.
Oh, oops. I better watch out then. One of the reasons you're our Realtor champion is, and not everyone may know this, but I'm currently also president of Habitat for Humanity. So I'm a part of an organization that the city and you work very closely with when it comes to housing and creating home ownership opportunities in the city of Fayetteville. And there's been some really exciting stuff that has happened over on Old Bunce Road, 47 homeowners there. We've done some incredible things on B Street where now, it's not a nonprofit, but the work we've done on B Street, now we have investors coming in and buying up those empty lots to build on, which is exactly what you hope to see as a mayor.
Right.
And our next project is going to be the Murchison Road corridor. Talk a little bit about the vision of what's going to happen in that area.
Well, I think that, first of all, let me say Habitat's a great organization. We appreciate the relationship, the partnership, and the work that you're doing for the people, because we know that one of the greatest assets or the most valuable asset a lot of people have is their home, and being able to have more people own a home and to start to accumulate some form of net worth is fantastic. Hopefully the goal with Murchison Road, we know it's been a long time coming. We know that the people, I grew up in the area, so I knew the persona was that there was everywhere but Murchison, and that it was a forgotten part of the city, but it's not. And it's just taken a lot more intentional policies and initiatives that I think will come to yield a very great community. It's collaboration with, like you said, Habitat. We have a lot of interest with some private sector folks who want to come in and build some workforce affordable housing options over there. We are trying to direct more commercial business activity over there. We've applied for a $30 million grant in collaboration with the Housing Authority. So I think that as these things come together, it will show a great effort that the people in that community can really see a significant amount of change.
That's wonderful. And just as a nod to the city's work on that as well, it's not just pockets here and there, but also there's infill going on. You've really seen through the city's collaboration with nonprofits, making those public-private, relationships just really work. We have truly seen long-term impactful change in areas of this city. And I think we lead by example when it comes to that. I get calls constantly asking how we're doing things and what's happening. So I've got a lot of love for the city officials and for you for all of those projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, we'll do a little fun fact here. We'll break this up with a fun fact and then get back to seriousness. So other than eating sweets and smoking cigars, what's playing and golf? Do you have any little hobbies that you help refocus your mind and clear your head during a tough week?
Yeah, I like to, I like to spend time with my daughters. They are kind of, a good escape. We'll go and ride off and just kind of be normal for a bit. I do like that. Also, I like to grill out on the back. That's very relaxing. That I get in my space. Put my grill hat on and I'm able to get back there, and it's very relaxing. So it doesn't take a whole lot for me to find happiness, and sometimes just quiet time is happiness. I do like to travel, and so getting out of the area sometimes just to kind of decompress and recharge is very helpful.
Well, it's amazing getting out of the area not only recharges your batteries, but it also makes your brain think in different ways. So
it does.
I like that you're a traveler. And a little guilty thing for me, I'm a daddy's girl. So are both of your girls daddy's girls, or are they just all in love with you?
Oh yeah, they definitely are. And I have 3, so yeah, they definitely are daddy's girls. So.
You'd like it for just to be you and the flames when it comes to barbecuing, but I bet you get interrupted a lot by the girls too.
Yeah, they definitely have their input and special requests. So.
Excellent. Good. Okay, let's get back to business. We've got about 10 more minutes to talk about some other stuff. Coming towards the end, let's not rush the end of the year too quickly, although some people would be happy just to jump straight out of 2020 and into 2021.
Right.
Coming towards the end of 2020, what are some lessons that you've learned this year?
So I think we've learned that we have to be able to adjust quickly to a circumstance. So in other words, there was a lot of planning, and we really didn't understand how our society worked as far as being close together. And when COVID hit and it made that impossible, we've adjusted quickly to life being apart. And so I think that we have to be able to make sure that the things that we've probably taken for granted, that we have touchless doors and lights and water fountains and those things to keep the spread of germs is a lesson that we've learned, and we're starting now to think about upfitting that for the next situation. I think we've learned that we are able to readjust. Some of our business people have to readjust all the time. You have something that you didn't plan that comes up and you make adjustments. So I think that the city has to think in that respect and see how it is that we can take what we normally do, providing a good quality of life and service, and be able to pivot quickly. And a lot of times government is not able to move that way simply because that's just not how it functions. So I've learned that life is full of uncertainties and that we have to make adjustments quickly.
Excellent. Good lesson to have learned. And let's see. Okay, this may be a little bit of a hot button topic, but again, those things shouldn't be avoided. Let's talk about the Market House. Where are we? Where are we with that? What are the things that we're considering with it right now?
Right. So basically, the Market House, as you know, means different things for different people. And I think that this is a conversation that we have to have. We've kind of avoided talking about it because it's one of those things that you really, just don't want to have too much of an opinion. As an African American, I understand there were a lot of horrific things that took place there that we're not proud of. I also tried to empathize with the other perspective that this is a part of history and that you can't erase it or change it by moving the brick and mortar part of it. So that leaves us to a community decision. And that is what right now we're trying to put the framework for community decision to be made, that the 200,000+ people here in the city have to live with after the decision, the day after it. And so right now, the conversation is to do nothing, which I think we've seen that has not really yielded us greatest benefit. There's a conversation to repurpose it or to remove it. And so the city council, from what I can understand, we are not in the process of making that decision, the 10 of us. And we are going to start to kind of, after everything calms down a bit with November 3rd, we plan to start having a small group or Zoom or town halls or surveys where you can take it in the privacy of your home or on your computer to tell us what this community thinks, and to be able to make sure that these are Fayetteville residents and citizens who are making the decision about what happens there. I've been kind of reserved about what my personal opinion is about it. I think that I've talked to good friends in other places of the South that are mayors that have things in their community that they're not proud of, but they learn how to use it to their advantage. Of course, Charleston, we know Mayor Riley down in Charleston did a great job with taking a bad situation where slavery took place and where they came off of the boats. And now it's a tourist attraction to where they come in and they explain it to people. As an African American, I'm not offended by that. I'm interested in that. But what's offensive is sometimes that there's a denial that bad things took place there. And I think that that's where we'll need the other side of this, members of our white community, prominent people, to step up and say, you know what, there were some horrific things that took place there. We're not going to minimize it. We're not going to call it an estate sale or try to make sure that we don't want to acknowledge it or whitewash it. bad things happen. We can't do anything about it. Let's tell the story about it. And I think that somewhere in between those two things, just like on the other end, I'm having a conversation with African Americans that I don't think that demolishing the building will accomplish the goal that we're looking for. Because after that, you're going to have a huge section of our community that is divided. And that's the last thing we need right now.
Yeah, I really appreciate your words there. One of the things, and of course, I was born and raised overseas in Europe. And so one of the, not to make it the same thing, but just an analogy for the sake of it is, you know, when you look at the Holocaust, there is no attempt to erase the Holocaust from existence. And yet there also are not statues of Hitler everywhere. So it's like the suffering is acknowledged without raising up the people that caused all the suffering. And I certainly agree with you. I think there's probably some capability to find a middle ground there, even in our town. You know, so I look forward to hearing more on that conversation. Where are we? We've got just a couple of minutes left here, and we do have a question from one of the listeners today, and it actually has to do with the dams and such in the city, and where are we on working on repair work from Hurricane Matthew, and sort of give us a quick update on where we are with that and stormwater issues.
Matthew, most of the claims, you know, they had like a 3-year window to file to receive FEMA assistance, and a lot of that came in for the things that they agreed happened because of FEMA. The dams, one of the communities with the dams filed a lawsuit. So, you know, anytime there's litigation, it complicates it. I think overall the city wants to figure out a way that's practical to help repair some of these things so that these communities are not impacted. And the first thing that they're safe. And so the state has taken a position on dams that they will put them out of service, and because they can be a huge expense maintaining that over a period of time. Right now, the council hasn't tackled the dams per se because of the litigation, and kind of limited to what we can talk about with that. But I think everybody's end goal is to make sure that these neighborhoods are protected and that there's no danger by not having the right infrastructure in place. The other repairs that have been made from Matthew, for the most part, repair to the public roadways have been done, but Matthew allowed us to see our weaknesses in our stormwater system, you know, and so a lot of communities, Locks Creek and other communities, we're trying to figure out how to deal with the flooding over there.
Thank you. And that has been an interesting conversation, because as you work through the layers of everything, it's so funny when an issue comes up, there's always this simple answer, right? Right. Everyone on each side has a simple answer. But as you start peeling back the layers, you realize, you know, for every choice you have, there's all these other impacts and complications. Right. So I do appreciate the way the city always seems to step up and listen before sort of jumping into quick decisions. Being responsive instead of reactionary. And I think that's one of our strengths as well as a city. So, and that's a nod to you and your leadership in the city council as well. Yeah. All right. So I think we're coming to the end of it. Mayor Colvin, I just want to say, number one, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. You know, they say the leader, the right leader is always there at the right time.
Thanks.
And so appreciate all your work. I think Angie's going to come back into the end of the show here and sign us all off, and maybe let us know to expect another one of these coming up. I hope all the listeners have enjoyed being with us today. Hi, Angie.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for setting this up. You go ahead, Angie.
Well, we'll be having our next Realtor Champion Breakfast at the end of November. So just look for your email in the next coming weeks. We'll surprise you with a new one. So thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much, Wendy. You did such a great job. And everybody, have a great morning.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.